Has God put on your heart to write a book, but you've been struggling to get it on paper for years? If that's you, this episode is your sign, and you definitely want to stay tuned because by the end of our time together, you are going to have such a conviction, but you're also going to have some practical steps that you can apply right away to help you to get unstuck. My name is Reverend Jocelyn. I'm your host and the coach for the Sister Start Your Ministry Hour that happens every week at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, where women from across the country gather together to talk about all things faith, ministry, and kingdom business. Now, if you're a first timer, I want to say a special welcome to you. I'm so glad that you were here, sis. And I want to bless you with a gift. So go ahead and visit sisterstartyourministry.com. This is something you want to write this down, sisterstartyourministry.com, because you can download a free ministry launch starter kit that's designed to help you to launch your ministry beyond the walls of the church. Maybe you're called to be a faith-based coach. Maybe you want to start a healing ministry, a nonprofit. It talks about how to generate revenue, market your ministry, organize yourself, and so much more. So you definitely want to take advantage of this free gift. Also, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button right now. Now, I already know my regulars, they know the drill. As you're watching this show, you want to make sure that you announce yourself by saying your name and which city you're representing so I can give you a shout out. Even if you're watching a replay, please do that for me so that I can engage with you. And today I'm going to be engaging with you in the comments. Now, let's get into the subject at hand, this book that you have been wanting to write. I want to encourage you to take action. Why? Because you have an important message to share. And when it comes to books, books live well beyond you. Books, I want you to get this, has the ability to go into homes, to go into countries that you might not ever visit. Books have the ability to transcend your life, to be a legacy where your children, your children's children, even if you don't have children, people who have never met you can still learn from your story, be inspired by your testimony, whatever wisdom you've accumulated over the years. Books have the ability to change lives. And as a woman of faith, I know that's something that you desire to do. But we have to get all the thoughts out of our head and onto paper. And this is sometimes where we get stuck. And so one of the things I want to talk about, this is actually a two-part teaching. For part one, I'm going to talk about some of the common mistakes that most women make when it comes to writing their book. So let's get started. Mistake number one. Most people try to cram multiple books into one. Yes, that means you have probably 4, 5, 6 different book topic ideas in mind. And you're like, oh man, I could write about when this happened, when I survived cancer, or when I went through divorce. Oh, I can write about like when, I overcame this particular challenge, or I want to do one that helps people start a coaching business. I want to do this. You have like so many ideas in your head about what you want to write about, but you're trying to, in some cases, try to form this all into one book. And that's kind of why you're feeling a little bit stuck, because what you're actually doing is putting together a Frankenstein message of ideas. And it really doesn't have one clear goal, one clear person that you're talking to. And so let me put you at ease here. For many of us, for you, sis, you more than likely have books, plural, inside of you, but you don't want to put all of the ideas in just one book. Instead, you want to recognize, okay, I can only write one book at a time. So which topic, which focus makes the most sense for me in this season? Where do I want to start first? So that's the thing I want you to consider. Don't try to do all of it. Just figure out what is the focus for your book. Because if you try to have 5 different topics, your book is going to be 600 pages, and who's going to read that, right? Okay, so we understand that we might have multiple ideas, but we're going to figure out which focus we're going to do first. And I would love to kind of get some ideas from you in the comments. What book topic ideas are you thinking about? But now, once you kind of have some focus on, okay, I want to go in this direction, great. Maybe you want to focus on healing. That's a good topic, but it's still kind of broad. So I want you to think about this, because this brings me into my second mistake that people often make. They don't have a clear audience in mind when you're writing your book. Having a clear audience matters. You know, when I was in a book coaching program, one of the first things that they taught us was that you want to have a clear avatar in mind. The word avatar essentially means ideal client or ideal person. You want to have an image in mind of the person who you are writing to, and go as far as even giving that person a name. You can call her maybe Janice or call him John or whatever. Give the person a name. But once you give that person a name, you're going further along than that. You're thinking about, okay, what stage in life is this person in? Or, okay, what challenge are they navigating? How do they think? What's their religious beliefs? Like, you want to know this person's psychology. You want to know their belief systems. You want to know what they're wrestling with, because essentially you are writing to them. Why is this important? Because I think sometimes we set a goal of writing to everyone. And yes, there's some universal principles that I'm sure is in your book. But in order for you to have a deeper connection to that person that is your assignment, then you're going to have someone in mind that you're speaking to, so that when you're writing, they will feel like you are talking to them. You notice I use the phrase your assignment, because there are certain people who you are uniquely positioned and qualified to serve. You are uniquely in position to connect with them in a deeper way because of your lived experience, maybe your education, maybe where you're located. There's certain people who God wants you to reach. And so you don't have to feel this pressure of making your book for everyone, because honestly, if it feels like it's for everyone, it won't really connect deeply to those people who are your assignment. So think about, not again, just I want to write this book for, hypothetically speaking, women, but think about the person who you want to write to, give her a name, him or her or them a name, and think about all of the dynamics at play when they are picking up your book. That will help you to make it very engaging and connect with the person on a deeper level. And I would love to hear from you in the chat. Put in the chat for me, who is the audience that you're thinking about writing to for your book? Even if you're watching the replay, I would love to know that from you. Okay. All right. So mistake number 3, and this is one that I made, and this is why I was stuck for like a couple years, is people sometimes write a book out of season. What do I mean by this? Sometimes we have a book idea, and it honestly might be a fabulous book idea, but is an idea that is out of season, meaning that you have not fully matured in that area yet, or you haven't lived enough life yet for that part of the book, the conclusion of your book, to be finished yet. It might be something where God wants you to live a little bit longer before you write that book, so you have a little bit more wisdom in that area. I remember after writing my first book, Breaking the Power of the Mask, I wanted to write a part 2 to this book. And I had like a whole title for it. I called it Beyond the Mask. And I was really excited. And I remember I wrote like probably 30,000 words, which is, a nice size self-published book. It's not too long, but I wrote like a significant amount of words for the book. And I remember sending it to an editor, and I was like, this doesn't feel quite right. Why am I struggling with this? And I kept going back and forth, and I'm like, God, like, I want to write this book. I think I want to, have this part two. It didn't feel right. I did two different rounds of working on this book, and I just could not release it. And finally, when I sat before God and I was really just thinking about the season that I was in, I realized, yes, you have a book already on healing, but right now you're doing a lot of work coaching women to start their faith-based business, coaching women in answering the call to ministry. So maybe the season that you're in, since it's focusing on helping women to answer the call, the book that you should write is on that particular topic. And so instead of writing a second book on healing, I shifted and wrote my second book called Sister Start Your Ministry. And once I realized that was the book for the season, I was able to go from blank page to published within 90 days for my second book because I figured out the season I was in. So that is something to consider. I know you probably have quite a few book ideas. Maybe one is going to be a great book. It might be a best-selling book idea, but it might be out of season, which is why you might be struggling to get it done. So consider, instead of trying to force a book prematurely, ask God to show you which book makes the most sense for you right now, looking at where you are from a career standpoint, where you are from a family standpoint. What lessons do you feel like would be the most beneficial to share right now? And that can be the difference between you being stuck and having some great momentum. All right, so the next mistake that I often see sisters make is that they write a book that is only about their story without thinking about the lessons that they want to pass on to the reader. Now, hear me. You have a powerful testimony. There's a lot of lessons that you can share with others through your story. But here's one of the mistakes that I see sisters make sometimes is that you position it as a memoir, as like just something that's biographical, like saying this is what my life experience was, which could be interesting. But if you just focus on your story alone without drawing out the lessons that you want your reader to experience, then the book is more than likely going to fall flat. Because unless you are Michelle Obama, you have your Oprah, you have some huge following where people are just super interested in knowing about you and your story, most people, I don't mean this the wrong way, they're kind of vain. They want to know, like, what's in it for me? What lessons are here for me? So I want you to think about what is in it for the reader. Because when it comes to the book, it is about them. You want them to be able to learn from your life experience. So, yes, you include stories, you include some of the parts of your testimony that you've overcome. But in every story that you share, I want you to then think about, like, okay, what is the lesson from this part of my story that I'm going to make sure that I share with the person who is reading this so they can learn from it, they can grow from it, they can be transformed by it. So that is something you want to think about. It's always about the person who you are called to serve. All right. The next mistake that I see sisters make is that they don't have a clear mission for the book. I want you to think about that. Just like a nonprofit, like a organization, any business, any church, there's a mission statement. The same thing should be true for your book. You want your book to also have a mission, a focus, a intention. Because without a mission, your book literally can be all over the place. I want you to think about when it comes to the person who's your assignment. If you've done the work that I mentioned earlier today, where you think about, okay, where are they in life? What are they struggling with? What keeps them up at night? Like you kind of know who this person is. And you also know, and I want to kind of expound upon this, your avatar, you know their problem so deeply, and you know what problem you're going to solve for them through your book. When you have that established, where you're saying, okay, this person is stuck in this area, or this person is looking for a solution in this area. Now you want to think about, okay, when they first pick up your book, they are at point A. My job is to get them to point Z. How do I get them from point A to Z? And what is the destination for point Z? Where will they arrive? In other words, what's the transformation? From point A, they're coming here feeling stuck, confused, not knowing where to turn, discouraged, having a health issue, whatever that is. That's point A. By the end of their time reading the book, they're going to experience healing. They're going to have hope. They're going to have like a change in mindset as it relates to their health. They're going to understand finances. What is the result, the promise, the transformation that they're going to get? And having clarity about the problem that your book solves, who this book is for, and the transformation that they're going to have at the other side of writing this book is going to help you to be able to have a book that is powerful. You want to have the end in mind the entire time when you're writing this book. So, we're going to recap here. First, do not cram multiple books into one. If you do that, you are not going to have a book that makes a lot of sense, okay? You'll be writing for days. Mistake number two, you want to have a clear audience in mind when writing your book, all right? So that they know, like, that you know who you are trying to serve and who you're trying to help. All right, make sure that you write a book that is in season, because out of season books, you will continue to struggle. Also, make sure that when you're writing your book, that is a book that is not just like chronicalizing your story, but you're thinking about the reader. You have the reader in mind. And then the next mistake that we want to avoid is we want to avoid not having a clear mission. All right. So now that we know which mistakes to avoid, now it's time to talk about some key success principles that are going to help you to write a best-selling book. Now, tip number one is to determine your voice. Your voice matters. Now, what do I mean by voice? It's not just the sound of my voice here, but I want you to think about your favorite author. And you want to have an author in mind, because if you're writing a book but you don't read a lot, that's my first homework assignment for you. You want to read and study your craft and genre. Think about, like, if you want to write a Christian nonfiction book, read some books by some best-selling Christian nonfiction authors so you can get a feel of their flow and their style and what you like about it, what you don't like about it. But even for your favorite author, here's the thing I also want you to get. It's not just a matter of mirroring what they do. You want to discover your own voice, your own style. And that's what I mean by voice. Do you want to have a voice where you sound like you are a girlfriend talking at a coffee shop, and you're like in your writing just saying, hey girl, or you're making jokes, or you're very familiar in how you communicate? Do you want to be more academic or formal? Do you want to be just like really profound in your writing? What style, what voice do you want to use throughout? Because here's the thing, you want to be consistent in your voice. If you're someone who's funny, if you're someone who is very witty, then be that throughout. But whatever makes the most sense for you, whatever is natural for you, that's what you want to lean into. But think about your voice when it comes to writing the book. Also, the next tip that I want to encourage you to do is to complete what is called a mind map. This is a tool, a strategy that you can do in other areas, even outside of writing your book, but it's especially helpful when you're writing a book because it helps you to get all these ideas out of your head and onto paper. I'm going to actually give you an example of a mind map. I'm going to use this background here and get up and see. Let's see if this marker is writing. Okay, it's awesome. It's writing here. All right, so we're going to do a mind map together. So say, for example, I'm going to use my book, Sister Start Your Ministry, for example. All right, in the middle, I am using the fact that I want to help women start a ministry. All right, so in the middle, if you have a sheet of paper, you are going to do a mind map. All right, don't know if you can read this, okay, but all right, but this says help women start a ministry. This is my mind map, and in the middle, you have like your mission of the book. You're helping domestic violence survivors, move past their pain, or you are helping people to heal from a certain issue, whatever that thing is. You have your mission statement in the middle, and then now you brain dump. You think about just all the different ideas, all the different lessons, all the different principles that you want to teach. And so when I was creating my book, I was thinking about things like, okay, I want to help women deal with fear when it comes to starting their ministry. I want women to understand the importance of their why behind creating a ministry or answering the call. I want to help women to get clarity on who they're called to serve, because a lot of women lack focus. So we're going to deal with focus. I want to help women to figure out how to equip themselves for ministry. I want to help them to know what training options are available. Then women need to learn how to market their ministry. They need to learn how to raise funds. They need to learn how to organize their time. Okay. And then, I want to make sure that I share the story of when I was struggling to hire staff. And so I'm going to tell my virtual assistant story. And so you're writing down story ideas after story ideas, and you just have it on paper, different things. And you look and like, oh, okay, this is a trend here. So fear, why? This could be chapter 1. This could be chapter 2. And you kind of look at, okay, how do I put together the dots here for what I'm trying to create so that it's consistent. But at first, it's messy. You just get it out on paper, all your ideas. It doesn't have to make sense. But after you put all of your ideas on your mind map, the next step in the process really is for you to create an outline. Now, for some of you, you're probably like, I don't like that idea. I just kind of like to sit at my laptop and write. And okay, I get it. But you can actually do that way. You can just freestyle. But I encourage you to consider being intentional by sitting down, getting all the ideas out, and then thinking about, okay, based on all the ideas, how can I build upon each chapter? What's foundational? Meaning, what do they need to know first? What's the step one? What are some principles that if I don't cover this first, they're not going to even be ready for what I teach in chapter 3 or chapter 4? So thinking about what are some key foundational principles, what could be grouped together in your book in such a way where you continue to build upon those things. And then in each chapter, just like your book has a mission and it has a certain point that you're trying to create, each chapter should have a single point that every story, that every lesson drives home. So having an outline and figuring out, okay, how do I organize this brain dump into something that's congruent and makes sense will help you to then know where you're targeting, knowing if you're on mission, knowing if you even have enough content to write a full book. So before you jump on in, take the challenge of writing your book outline. Now, once you have done all the things that I just mentioned, oh, wait, I almost skipped a step here. So let me back on up. One of the success tips that I want to share next is after you create your outline, I do want to make sure that you think about when you're creating your outline, what stories you want to tell. Because it's not just about you putting information out there in your book, but you want to connect with your reader. And throughout, stories are so powerful. So for every chapter you have, again, it's not just quoting scripture, it's not just making the point, it's what stories can I put in each chapter that's going to really connect with my reader, really let them know that I understand, really help to drive that point home. When you have that in place, it will help you to go a lot further in your writing process. Now, success tip number 4 is setting up your writing routine. This is something where during the writing season, you got to discipline yourself. And scripture reminds us no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who are trained by it. When it comes to writing, it's going to be times where you don't feel like doing it. But if you are bivocational, if you are in a season where you are a mother, you got obligations at your church, you got you're a wife, like all the things, time is not something that you have in abundance. And if that's the case, you are going to have to make the time to write the book and create a writing routine. You might have to get up an hour earlier. You might have to stay up an hour or two later. You might have to say no to certain things that you used to do because you don't have time to do it right now, because in this season, you want to make this a priority. And in doing so, you set up a routine where you sit in front of a computer, but you might be at your favorite coffee shop. You might be in a place in your home that's just quiet, that gives you peace. You know, at certain times, this is when you have the most energy and you're best in position to think clearly to write your book. Whatever writing routine makes the most sense for you. I know one person who is a professional writer. They've written many books. Their writing routine is they go to their favorite coffee shop. They sit at the same table and they go there at a certain time, and their mind is primed to say, when I go to this coffee shop, I am writing. I eliminate the distractions. We put the cell phone on do not disturb, let people know you on mission and you get to work. But the thing is, guarding out those distractions and disciplining yourself so that you can focus on the task at hand is going to make a difference for you when it comes to completing the assignment that God has put on your life. All right. The last success tip that I'm going to share with you today is get a coach. Get a coach. I can't emphasize this enough. I remember back in 2017, I had this dream of writing my first book. I really wanted to write. And I was busy working a full-time job. I was working at my church. I was always tired. And so I was like, oh, so time just came and left. And by the time I knew it, a year had passed. And I'm like, okay, no problem. This is going to be my year now. I'm going to write it this year. And 2018 came and left. And I was like, oh my gosh, why can't I get this book done? And so finally I said, you know what? I got a bright idea. This is what's going to do it. I am going to lock myself in an Airbnb for an entire week in this remote town in Illinois. And I'm going to do nothing but write my book. And I was so serious about that. And I remember after that full week, I was committed. I was very serious. In fact, I'm going to actually show you a quick video so you can see how serious your girl was. Okay, watch this video and then I'm going to come back and talk to you. All right, so I'm super excited. I'm in my room in Peoria. Sorry for the backlight. And it is March 28th, 2019, and I had to do like a quick little video journal because today God has given me the vision for my first book. I had ideas of like themes and topics I wanted to talk about, but he gave me the vision of my experience with the marathon and tying that into the journey of life. Perfect, right? And so ideas are just coming like just rapidly in my head. I'm taking a shower and I'm like, oh, that's perfect for the book and all that good stuff. And so I'm just so thankful for this time away. God is going to work this thing out with this book. I'm going to keep documenting this experience. I am going to start writing the first chapter today, again, March 28, 2019. And my book will be released and on the market by August. I'll keep proclaiming this. I'll keep focused on this goal. It's going to happen, people. And this is going to be a bestseller. And it's going to give God glory. Excited. So for the rest of the day, I'm about to go to the library and work on chapter 1. Let's first things first. And then I'm going to work out because taking care of my health is important. And then after that, we'll just take it from there. Until next time, bye. Okay, so you see how serious I was about starting my ministry and starting my business. But please ask me, how many pages did I actually write? Just take a wild guess. While I was at this retreat center. Well, I wish I could say I wrote 20 pages or 30 pages or 50 pages, which I thought I was going to write the whole book. Your girl wrote, drum roll please, 0.5 pages. 0.5. I didn't even finish a full page while I was at that writing retreat for a week. Why? Because it wasn't the fact of me not being motivated or wanting to. I just did not know what I was doing. I was stuck. I didn't have clarity. I didn't know how to navigate writer's block. I didn't have clear direction. And so it was one of those things where finally I remember after feeling so discouraged, I saw like this advertisement for this upcoming webinar, and they said that they were showing people like how to write their book, go from blank page to publish in 90 days. And I was like, okay, it's worth a shot. Clearly, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I signed up for the webinar, and it was good information. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do next? And they talked to me afterwards, and they said they had a coaching program to help me to move forward with my book. And I was like, okay, sounds great. But then they said the price was $7,000. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like I just left my job, stepped out on faith to be able to publish this book. I ain't got it like that. But I really thought about it. This was something where I had been wanting to do this for over 3 years, and it was getting to the point where it was uncomfortable for me to continue to sit on this book. And clearly, I did not know what I was doing. And I felt so clearly that God was like, you cannot continue to sit on this. And so I went ahead and I invested in this program. And when I tell you, this coach not only held my hand, but held my feet to the fire. He helped me to navigate writer's block. He was like, okay, this is how you like organize your chapters. Okay, this is how you find an editor. This is some things that you need to consider when doing your book cover. This is how you use your book to generate new clients. This is like all the things. And when I tell you, I went from blank page to published in 90 days. And I was able to host a book signing event with all my family there, including my late father, who was so proud to see me publish my first book. Now, here's the thing. If I had waited literally like 6 to 7 more months, I would have missed that moment because COVID hit just a few months later. I would not have had that book signing event, the gathering. I probably wouldn't have even gotten the book done because I was in seminary school at the time. And so sometimes we think we just have until tomorrow, but we don't always have more time. And in some cases, some of the people who need our books or want to be there to celebrate with us won't even necessarily be around later if we continue to push it off. So I want you to think about, I want you to think about this. If God has put this book on your heart and you know it's the season to do it, you have to make it up in your mind that you're not going to let anything continue to get in the way of what God has called you to do right now. There's someone right now who is praying for an answer, who is praying for someone to see them, and your book has the ability to give them the breakthrough that they're praying for, to give them encouragement, to help them to see past their pain. I remember when I was going through my divorce due to domestic violence, I was reading a book, crying in my hotel room. And that book was like my lifeline because it showed me that I was not by myself. For some, your book can be a lifeline, but for whatever reason, you have not written it yet. I'm challenging you to step outside your comfort zone. I'm challenging you to say, you know what? I'm not going to keep putting this off. I'm going to make the commitment. I'm going to invest in the support that I need so that I can deliver the message to the person who's my assignment. And that is my challenge to you, sister. Now, if you are at a place where you are looking to write a book, or maybe you're looking to write a book and you're looking to start your faith-based business, then I'm going to challenge you to take another step forward. And if you're very serious, then I want to invite you to book a breakthrough session with me where we can sit down, we can talk about your book idea, we can talk about your ministry idea or your nonprofit idea. And we can create a plan for you to get the support that you need to help you to move from stuck like I was for several years to not only being a published author, but being a kingdom business owner. This is something where it's not a call where you have to worry about me, pushing you to buy anything that's not for you. No, no, no. We're really talking about how we can support you in answering that call, getting your message out to the world. So here's the link, revjocelyn.com/breakthrough-session. There's also information in the show notes. And I have some bonus trainings and tools for you in the show notes as well to help you to do what God has put on your heart. So I thank you so much for listening. I hope that you were encouraged and convicted and challenged by today's episode so that you can go out and share your message with the world. Thanks again for tuning in. If you like today's episode, be sure to hit that like button for me, subscribe, and share this with any friend of yours who you know right now is also planning to write their book. Thank you for tuning in, sister. And I will see you next week for another Sister Start Your Ministry Hour. Be blessed.